All right, it's draft season, which of course means it is research season. The off season in general, I love to do some research here. I love to figure out, run studies of my own, figure out things that I feel like other people might not know. And this is something that I really wanted to talk about was arm length. So I was watching Aiden Hutchinson film, big fan of him. I'll get more into that later as we get closer to the draft, but really like Hutchinson and what he's been able to do. And as I kind of tweeted it out, and someone brought up a point, well, what about his arm size? Because again, I don't really pay attention to college football until it's draft season. And so I said, okay, that's interesting. And I looked around, and a lot of other people were saying that once I started to read more about Hutchinson. Arm length, arm size, is that an issue at the NFL level? And so I wanted to see if it was or if it wasn't. And so I did a study on it, which is what I like to do about this stuff. And listen, I think some people like to say, if you're productive, you're productive. But there are aspects that, we have seen these measurables really matter. I always bring up cornerback speed. That's a big one where 40 time for corners really matters, and the data backs that up. There's some other stuff that tends to not matter too much. Quarterback hand size is a good example of that one. So what is this one? Which one does this fall under? Well, let's get into it. Here is the chart. So what you have here, this is going to be, all the way over to the left. This is how many inches your arm length is, and then you're going to see a score. And I want to explain what the score is before I show you these scores. So it's on a scale of 1 to 4. What I did was, and the way I did this entire study, was I went back and I looked at previous first round edge rusher draft picks, and I looked at their arm length, and I also just evaluated how I felt about them as a player currently in today's NFL. So I started with 2019 and worked backwards and gave you a score of 1 to 4. 1 being a complete bust, 2 being a guy who has some value but isn't a star or anything like that. 3 is a good player, and 4 is the elite of the elite. So like Myles Garrett and TJ Watt got a 4, but not a ton of players are going to get 4s because, I saved that for the really good ones. So at 35, the score was an even 3.0. So this means that the average guy with 35-inch arms or higher is a good player. Now that of course doesn't mean they were all good. Some are going to be 4s, some are going to be 1s, but you get the idea. Then at 34, there is a big drop off. It falls all the way to 2.2, which is a low grade. Again, an even grade would be 2.5. 33-inch arms, it actually goes back up to 3.3. And then finally, 32-inch arms, it falls again to 2.2. So this is interesting, and I'm trying to think, what do we make of all this exactly? For me personally, part of me says, okay, let's just throw it out. It doesn't matter. Clearly there's something weird here. The 34-inch arms has a real issue. The highest grade is 33-inch arms, which is on the lower side. So does this matter at all? That's probably what it is, but it's possible there's something else. Again, you can read data several different ways. That's what makes it interesting. You could certainly make the argument of, well, no, some players get overdrafted because having they have long arms, but also at the same time, having short arms does hurt you. And you do have a low grade, a low score for me if you have 32-inch arms or lower. And again, 32-inch arms, by that I mean, if you have 32.5-inch arms, you fall under 32-inch arms. So Hutchinson is in that category. So you could make the argument that you would still like to have a guy who has at least 33-inch arms, and maybe the reason why it gets lower as you start to get higher up is guys get overdrafted, but I don't really think I see it that way. For one thing, the fact that it's the same score with 34-inch arms and 32-inch arms leads me to believe that it's not an overdrafting issue. I think it's probably an element of variance. It does seem like there might be a little bit of something there just because the fact that 35-inch arms does score better than 34-inch arms. So by that logic, you would think that the teams do value this kind of stuff. And so you would think that guys who have 35-inch arms would get overdrafted, but their score has been good. So it seems like maybe if you have over 35-inch arms, that's a benefit. I wouldn't really, though, consider having short arms to be too much of a hindrance by the way I see the data. But again, we can view this differently. So a little bit of a shorter video, but what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on all of this? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.